Hello, welcome back to the channel. It's me, Emmy the Cat Lady, and you join me here at the Sierra Madre at in Dead Money with the lovely blood red sky and the lovely hologram of Vera Keys in front of us. So come into this DLC to talk about another mutated human, the ghost people of the Sierra Madre. So in Poly, we're often seeing technology and biology interacting in some way, from your RoboBrain cyberdogs to Mr. House to Fisto. And one of the most extreme and kind of bizarre examples that we see is the ghost people here in the villa of the Sierra Madre. So to understand exactly what happened here, we do need to talk about Frederick Sinclair and his connections to Big Mountain, the secret mad science facility. So Frederick Sinclair built the Sierra Madre and this entire kind of resort. So there's the villa, like a little kind of town around it, and then the casino, which is way up there. And the main reason that he did that was to protect Vera Keys, who was a singer, very popular. So he'd been introduced to her by Dean Domino, another popular singer pre-war, and fell in love with Vera Keys. So he wanted a place that could survive the coming nuclear war, and began the construction. And there is a whole story that you can uncover of affairs and planned robbery and whatnot, which is a topic for a different video entirely. But what we're interested in here is Mr. Sinclair's affiliation with Big Mountain. So he had a deal with them and allowed them to use the Sierra Madre as a testing ground for some of their more unique inventions, let's say. So one of the ones is an interesting toxic chemical that was created at the Z43 Innovative Toxins plant. And this gas caused serious lung and skin damage, and it got into the ventilation system and started making people ill. So we can actually see it there. So this red, what's called the cloud here, is the gas that we're talking about. And because construction workers were becoming unwell, obviously there was going to be complaints to Sinclair that would get back to him that they were having problems. So he had to kind of go back to the guys at Big Mountain and say, look, people are getting sick from this chemical, it's causing problems, I'm losing money, can you do something? So they offered him some hazmat suits, so these new chemical hazmat suits that they'd invented, untested chemical hazmat suits. So I thought it's just a rad roach, that's fine. So yeah, chemical, untested chemical hazmat suits. So that was fine, that, you know, the people could put... Yeah, there's the toxic cloud. So it does damage your health. You do need to be careful of areas with the toxic cloud when you're in this DLC. But there is also holograms. That was another tech from Big Mountain that ended up here, and they use it as a security system and things as well. So just something to bear in mind as you go through. So I'm guessing we can't go...
This gate to Sierra Madre is sealed, locked, for now. Do as I say and it won't be locked for much longer.
Yeah. Unfortunately, you do have Father Elijah's voice in your ear the whole time when you're going through this DLC, which is kind of tedious. See, I'm just looking to see if we can actually find some of the ghost people. I think we're going to have to go into... Puesta del Sol.
Don't go through the gate to Puesta del Sol yet.
Okay.
Gather the others first.
Okay. Where does this take me? No idea. Yeah, police station. There's going to be a bunch of...
Watch out for the villa inhabitants. They're difficult to kill unless you chop them apart. If you can, blow them up or disintegrate them.
Thanks, Elijah. A wee bit ahead for that conversation, but we have found one of the ghost persons hopping about here. So, yeah, it basically went back and said, you know, they got these hazmat suits. But the construction workers find these suits really kind of restrictive and bulky, so they've found it difficult to move. difficult to do things with their hands, and they were quite restrictive. And the respirators that were attached to them made communicating difficult. They couldn't really speak or be heard very well. So they ended up actually resorting to using sign language to communicate with each other. And anyone that knows about working in construction trades knows that communication on construction sites is essential for safety. You need to be able to communicate with each other to make sure that nobody gets hurt. So having that taken away was obviously going to potentially cause other safety risks. And the final issue was that the workers struggled to get the suits off by themselves. They needed help from other people to take them off. But despite all these issues and complaints, the suits were put to use. However, it got worse because when the suits were exposed to the toxic gas, the what became the cloud, it corroded the metal on the suits, which meant that they couldn't be taken off. So the clips that held the pieces in place corroded and got stuck, and they couldn't take them off. So the workers actually ended up resorting to using the cosmic knives, which were made of an alloy created at Big Mountain as well, to cut themselves free, which meant that they had to then buy more of the suits. So Sinclair wasn't really happy about this whole situation. But then, before this place could be opened properly, the bombs fell and everyone that was here got trapped. There was no escape from this location for the people. So because of that, the guests and the staff that were inside the casino were killed by the security holograms, which were also created at Big Mountain. So basically everything that went wrong in this place is because of the mad scientists at Big Mountain. So that's the main takeaway from that. But people in the villa and surrounding area probably died in other ways. But as the infrastructure and the incomplete construction began to break down, the toxic gas spread and took over the whole area, which is what we know as the toxic cloud. And anywhere you see the red smoky stuff is the cloud, and if you spend too long in it, you are going to die. So we don't know for sure who the ghost people actually are. The likelihood is that they are, survivors of the construction crew and other people that were maybe employed here before the war. He's got his spear stuck right through his chest. That's kind of impressive. But they maybe, when the gas was leaking, they put the suits on to try and survive and then got stuck in them. And that seems to be what's happening. They've gone sort of feral. They're not quite on the same level of feral ghouls. They still have the ability to think and use tools and traps and stuff like that. But they can't really communicate, and they're hostile to anything that isn't a ghost person. I've got combat turned off, so that's why this guy is just hopping about and not attacking me. And they know the area well, and they are, as Elijah pointed out, they are notoriously difficult to kill. We're going to get into the reason for that just now. So we want to look at the biology of these people. You can kind of see this kind of green gas when they're breathing out, so that's something that you'll notice. So these people have been trapped in the suits, which aren't 100% protective against the cloud, so they have experienced a long-term low level of exposure to the cloud, and that is what's changed them and mutated them more so than radiation, really. So you see that green gas cloud when they're breathing out. I'll see if I can get it closer to this guy, but he keeps hopping around. Yeah, you see that there? So their body has changed, and when you do attack them, their blood is yellow and their flesh is also yellow and apparently tastes like plastic or copper. This is according to Dog, who's one of the characters that we've been tasked to find. Dog is a nightkin who likes to eat the ghost people. So he tells us what they taste like, which is lovely. So in essence, they're functionally immortal, kind of like the ghouls are. So because obviously the cloud is deadly to you when you're not protected, but because they have these suits, they're only exposed to a low level of it, which has the opposite effect and seems to make them immortal and difficult to kill. And that's one thing to note when it comes to anything toxic, anything that's a poison. And I say this all the time because it's something that people don't always understand. is that the dose makes the poison. Anything can be toxic in high enough amounts, even water. If you drink far too much water in a short space of time, you can poison yourself with water. It's possible to do that. Obviously, would not recommend it. And that happens because all the water dilutes all the salt in your blood and basically causes you to have a heart attack. Anything can be toxic if the dose is high enough. That's kind of the difference, and that's what's different about these guys, is that because they've been subject to a much lower exposure to the toxic cloud, it's changed them instead of killing them. While because you don't have one of these suits, you will die if you hang out in the toxic cloud. So that's kind of the thing. The dose makes the poison, and that's something that's very important to note. Even, let's say, another example is chocolate. So more people know now than they used to, but it is common knowledge that chocolate is toxic to dogs. And we actually have vets now who are a big emergency clinic company in the UK. They've got big referral hospitals and they've got out of hours clinics and things. So you can go onto their website and they have a calculator where you can put in the amount and the type of chocolate and the weight of the dog and calculate how serious it could be. Because the darker the chocolate, the more cocoa solids in the chocolate, the more toxic it is. Because it's a specific substance in that. So dark chocolate's worse than milk chocolate. White chocolate is generally not a problem, because it doesn't really have the cocoa solids in it. It just has the cocoa fat. But you can kind of calculate how serious, and that will then dictate to the vet what options they use to kind of treat the potential poisoning. So something that we obviously see with this guy, and you can see the way he's jumping around and things. So they do have an odd gait, they kind of, the way they walk, and this guy's hopping around all the time, but they walk like they're dragging their leg. Let's see if we can get it to walk again. He does just like to do the hoppy thing all the time. And the way he's kind of hunched over as well, he's there we go, yeah, see the way he's walking. So there's obviously something, whether that's to do with the suit that he's wearing that's restricting some aspect of his mobility, or whether it's internal damage, it's not clear. But they can't use guns or anything, but they can still use tools and weapons. So they tend to be armed with these spears that are actually made from the cosmic knives we were talking about. So they've basically taken a stick and tied these knives to the end, and then there's throwing versions of those spears, bear trap fists, and some of them do use improvised explosives as well. So they still have some capacity for tactics and things like that they can use. And they also do set bear traps down, and they also, another thing that they do is they understand the concept of bait. So sometimes they'll leave helpful supplies out for people to find, and that kind of, so they leave like stim packs or something lying out to lure you in so that they can attack. That's something that they do. So we know that they are at least smart enough to understand that concept. So when it comes to mortality, as Father Elijah told us there, you might be surprised the first time you kill one of these guys that they get back up again. So they don't go down easily. So even if you deplete their HP to 0, there's still a chance of them getting back up again. So in order to kill them, you have to dismember, disintegrate, explode, or eat them. And I said what I said, ask Dog about it, or God about it, mostly Dog, about it, and he can tell you that's what he does. And that is enough to destroy them. That's a good example, just the way they're walking. So they look like, the kind of thing that you would see in sort of zombie games, Silent Hill and the like, which is interesting. They tend to roam in small groups. This guy's here on his own, but he's one of the first ones that you come across because this is the very opening area of the DLC, so it's a wee bit kinder to you, a wee bit. Until you get into the nitty-gritty of exploring this horrific place. But they are drawn to loud noises, so any music or anything like that, I mean, you can hear that bell in the background and things, they are drawn to loud noises and they'll then swarm the area. When it comes to the security holograms, they seem to worship them or revere them in some way. They're not afraid of them, but they won't attack them either. They seem to treat them like some kind of deity that they worship, which is really interesting. And again, it might just be these kind of shiny things that vaguely look human. And they do obviously have these glowing eyes and their masks and the cowls, and they're wearing these suits. So it's yeah, they're very, very interesting, and the fact that this fog, the cloud, is keeping them alive in a sense, it's very, very interesting. But we don't really have any specific details on the chemistry of the toxin or anything like that. But it's Big Mountain, so it could be literally anything. So their ability to get back up when you kill them does make them more challenging to fight, especially because when you start out the game, you're not really given a lot of weapons or anything. There we go. You see that his HP filled up, and he's unconscious, so he's not dead. Because well, yeah, I can't search him. I don't even think I've got anything to. No, I have a camera and the Big Mountain transportal ponder. So thanks. Yep, there he goes. He's back. So yeah, they get back up again after a little bit, unless you completely dismember them. So having the Bloody Mess perk can help with that, because it obviously has a chance of causing dismemberment when you kill, and if you ask Dog about eating the ghost people, then he will give you the Ghost Hunter perk, which helps you kill them once and have it stick. There we go, now he's dead. Now he's dead, and yeah, you can see the light on. Yeah, you can see that their flesh has gone this horrible kind of yellowy colour, which is lovely. And he had the knife spear and the throwing knife spear, so yeah, that's kind of how you have to handle them. But Dog can give you the perk. And the guy that I've just killed there is the Harvester. He's the most common one and uses the cosmic knife spears and throwing spears. Hit points range from 50 to 450, depending on the level, so they do scale with your character's level. I can't remember what level this one is. What are we, like 27, yeah, so sort of reasonably high level. Bear in mind that each DLC does add 5 to the level cap in this game, so you might see some of the stronger ones. So there are also what are called the Trappers, and they are bigger and they don't have the hood on the cowl. They have just the kind of mask. There we go, the gang's all here. So I've realised that I was probably just going to be wandering around for ages trying to find all the different guys, so I thought I would just spawn them in. So here we have the Harvester that we've seen before. This is just Ghost, but this is one of the Trappers. They're supposed to be one of the Trappers. I put the wrong thing in. Hang on. Yeah, he's supposed to be one of the Ghost Trappers. Anyway, and then that guy is the Seeker, but also just listed as a Ghost. Maybe it doesn't work properly, but yeah, so yeah, you can see that the Trapper doesn't have the cowl over his head that the other two have, and he's also quite a bit bigger, so yeah, very creepy little guys, no doubt about it. So the Harvester's the most common one, and they use the spears, and their hit point goes from 50 up to 450 depending on their level. The Trappers have higher hit points as well. Yeah, so he's got 75. I've just spawned in the kind of lowest level ones, but their health can go up to 675 hit points, which is quite a lot, and they tend to use the Bear Trap Fist more than anything else. And then the Seekers, they have the cowl, the hood over the cowl, and they will use the knife spears, but they also use gas bombs. and their hit point can range from 50 to 450 as well. According to the game, so for your challenges, I can't remember what that's under now. Challenges, there it is. So under the challenges, the kind of in-game achievements and challenges, they are considered abominations. So for the abominable challenge, killing them counts towards that. And you can also cosplay as one of them. So I'm going to just leave things here. And we're going to head into a different DLC. Okay, we are over here in Old World Blues. So this place is actually quite close to the sink and the main think tank dome area. So it's just directly to the east, a very short journey away. And this is the hazmat testing ground. So yeah, the Z9 Crotalis DNA Preservation Lab where they make the Night Stalkers is nearby as well, and there's this destroyed building, and if you come down here, so you can find a key for this, I forget exactly where, and in this little pod you can open it up and get the suit. So I had already picked it up, so we'll make our way out there and I'll demonstrate it. So you can cosplay as one of the ghost people if you really want to. So you find the hazmat suit, which does plus 85 poison resistance, which is the maximum, and the dark light cowl, which gives you green night vision. So there you go. So now you can be a ghost person too, if you really want to. So yeah, it's kind of fun that you can actually get the suit. I'm not a fan of the green right enough. The green vision is a bit weird, but yeah. So obviously all that stuff, all the horror that you discover really in the Sierra Madre comes from here, except for the other nonsense that Father Elijah does to make it even more complicated. You know, and then there's the whole thing with all the radio frequencies and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, Dead Money it's a challenge, and I've never actually played it on this version of the game. I did play it on the PS3 version back in the day, but yeah, it's an interesting one, and I think the ghost people are, you know, because you expect that all mutations and all the changes to things, it's all because of radiation, but actually there have been other things that have caused other kind of mutations and changes in people that just make things a wee bit more interesting. And again, it's more evidence of the fact that mad science, when it's left to run amok, causes nothing but harm and problems for people. So, you know, there should be ethics, there should be morality, and maybe we don't use fancy resorts as testing grounds for weird chemicals and whatnot, because sometimes there's consequences for that. But yeah, so that's the Ghost People of Dead Money. Definitely a creepy addition to the humanish mutations, I would say. I like them because they kind of give the impression of being like zombies or like feral ghouls, but they're not quite. You know, they still have some cognitive functions beyond the most basic kind of animal instincts. You know, they set traps, which animals do that as well, to be fair, but you know, they set traps and they can still use tools, they can use explosives and stuff like that. So I say they're not completely far gone, but you know, some of the bonkers technology does these things. And there's another example of that you find in this DLC, which I will be getting to, which is the Y17 trauma override harnesses. They're really interesting as well. Also quite difficult to kill, so you know, it's I guess when you're hovering that line between alive and dead, then it's not always easy to push you into one side or the other. But anyway, So hopefully you enjoyed that. I do like the ghost people, and Dead Money it is a DLC that's worth your time. It's a bit of a challenge, because again, one of the things sometimes with games that to make things more challenging, they just give enemies more health and more damage output, and that just adds tedium more than anything else. That was one of the issues I had with Fallout 76 and the Scorch Beasts. That just got really frustrating because I felt like I was spending hours just collecting lead and stuff in order to make enough ammo just to take the bloody thing down, because I got to a high enough level that it couldn't really do a lot of damage to me, but I was just running out of ammo constantly because they just took so much took so much ammo and took so much time to take down, and it's not fun, it's not interesting. And it's not challenging. It's just it gets annoying, really. And that was one of the things that I think really put me off it. While dealing with enemies, like that there's something different about how they attack and things like that. So it means that you're having to put more thought into your approach and having to come up with kind of strategies to deal with these things. So with the ghost people, you get told, you get all your stuff taken off you as well, so you're having to scavenge to find suitable weapons to deal with this. But, the ghost people, the important thing is that you have to do enough damage to dismember them or explode them. So using explosives, getting your hands on one of the cosmic knives or something so that you can hack them to bits once you've knocked them down. Or getting dog to give you the perk, that kind of thing. So you have to think of different ways of dealing with them and use a bit of strategy. And I think that's what makes things more challenging rather than just giving enemies more health and, making them take longer to take down, because that's just padding out the experience. It's not really adding anything to it, and it's not making you use any particular skills or any particular thoughts. It's just making you spend more time and using up more of your resources to take these enemies down. It's not adding any challenge or anything, and I think that's kind of a problem that a lot of games kind of suffer from, but it is something that I do notice in Fallout. Fallout 3 especially was notorious for that, with the super mutant overlords that are just massive bullet sponges, but there's no other difference to fighting them. You're just still doing the same thing. Fallout 4 was definitely better in that way because different enemies had different behaviours, and so different tactics were needed really to kind of win against them. And I think, the ghost people and all this stuff, the environmental challenges in Dead Money are like that as well, that you have to deal with the radios, so you have to be paying attention to your surroundings, and you have to be kind of finding the right way to go to avoid these things, and having to be careful. And when you walk into an area of cloud, you have to make sure you get through it quickly. And it makes you think, and it makes you actually use some of your other skills, and you're not just firing bullets at things for hours and hours on end. And that is what makes the game more interesting to me, certainly. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this, and I will be back on Tuesday. We're going to talk about some newspaper stuff with the Capital Post, because I think that would be quite interesting. And then Thursday I should hopefully be back with episode 6 of season 2. Really excited to see where this is going to go, because it's all everything's gone to pot a little bit for a lot of the main characters, so I'll be interested to see what happens next. And of course, next Saturday, we will be back with another weird humanish mutation. I also forgot that my character in this game is blonde, but there we go. Yeah, just cosplaying as a ghost person, which is kind of fun. So I will catch you guys next time. Bye.